So, hello everybody and good evening. If you are here for applying DevOps in Flutter mobile development, you are in the right spot. But before we go over and say hi to Majid, you can already see here, let me tell you something about the code of conduct. The short version is please behave and be nice. The long version is this one here. So, and here we are, live with Majid. He will talk about Flutter and DevOps. Please be reminded that on this side of the screen, there is this little box where you can, number one, ask your questions. Majid will answer in the end of this talk, and where you can, like Thomas is already doing, say hi and from where you are, so that Majid actually knows that there are people out there and where they are from. So this was enough talking of myself. Hi, Majid. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. So we're going to talk about DevOps and applying to the Flutter. A couple of ideas that I implemented in several projects, and I think that it's valuable to share between other developers as well. Let me know if you see the screen. So I want to test this chat first, see if you can use that. Can you see my presentation? Yes. Then it's coming. Very good. So if you have any question, let me tell this first. If you have any question, you can write this question and I will answer at the end of the talk. So and you can write it there. So if you don't want to forget about it, so just write it there. No worries. But I will answer at the end of the session. But let's get it started. So applying DevOps to Flutter mobile development. Let's see. So first of all, let's just come to the same page. If you still don't know what is Flutter, or you want to know a little bit more about Flutter, is that Flutter is an open source UI software development kit that usually just provides you UI to create beautiful applications. And that supports several platforms out of the box. It supports Android, iOS, web, and Linux, Windows, Mac, and also embedded devices. So it's nice toolkits that makes you, not only makes a beautiful application, but also makes the development quite fast. So you can just do a lot of stuff very quickly. And the reason behind it is because you have hot reload and other Flutter the tooling that helps you to develop as fast as possible. And at the end of the day, it makes you productive, right, as a developer. So if you start a Flutter project, you will quickly notice that how fast you can create the stuff and you can just get something done. And there are some stuff that makes Flutter unique, for sure. And one of them is that Flutter compiles to native code. So another thing is that there is no such a thing like markup language. You write everything in Dart. So if you have haven't done anything with Flutter, so you only concern probably that you have is to just learn a little bit of Dart. You even don't need to do that in beginning because Dart is very simple. If you are a web developer using JavaScript, TypeScript, or if you are a backend developer using Go or like Java or languages like this, so it's fairly easy for you to just quickly come and pick Dart because it's fairly simple languages. And so at the end of the day, so you have one code base and you compile to several different platforms, and it really works. So, and you can give it a try. So already there are samples for different platforms, but all of these are here to just make us productive, right? And to ship something faster to our end user. And when it comes to our team and developing like an application, so now we have a tools that we can create beautiful apps. We can also go ahead and compile it to several platforms from one single code base. Well, okay, that's fine. Then now it's time to think about how we apply this mindset of continuous delivery, continuous integration, or all of these things in the backlog, how can we deliver it to our end user? And the end user can be our testers, internal, external, or it can be our end user, like as a customer of the company. So all of these customers. So we want to find out like different ways in a team that we can apply to ship our application faster to our end user. The day about some like maybe deployment. Some we are, I am and I like it as much as possible. Less at apps in a way, right? So some sensitive with a couple of signing and things. So we'll
Majid, I think your audio driver just crashed. It's like hammering.
Oh, you have.
It's like when it's clipping, it's repeating itself.
Just that. You hear me better right now?
Yeah, now it works. Thank you.
Okay. So those who say cannot hear me well, can you confirm if you hear me well? Thanks. Works good. I'm sorry. So I think I was microphone. I have a better over there. Fantastic. So myself, my name is Majid. You're just you passionate. In my space, I do quite a lot of organizers, and I'm also doing like tutorial books and things like that. Different publisher like Plural Sites and Press and publisher. So enough talking about. If you on you my handler the handle you find me anywhere, LinkedIn, Skype, I don't know. You find me what is.
Unfortunately, the microphone problems are back. Now you're not rapping, now you are silent.
Okay, let's see. I will turn voice auto. Maybe that's some problem. Hear me now?
Yeah. Can you say something?
Yes. Can you right now check if the
It's like you are there, and then we see your mouth moving, but we do not hear that part of the sentence.
Can I switch to my Wi-Fi? What's the problem with my Wi-Fi? I mean, internet.
Yeah.
Can I switch quick? I'm sorry, everyone.
Okay. Always fun with live events. Okay. I think now we lost Majid. Yeah. Maybe the audio broke because I didn't wear my mask. This could be, but I hope not. Yeah. Ah. So. So, Majid, did my mask help?
Can you hear?
No, it's the same.
It's the same problem.
Yeah.
I switched. How about now?
Well, for now, I heard more than before.
Yeah, I think I hear myself as well. So, but it's a bit. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Is it working fine? So when I'm speaking right now?
Yes.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'll
If
continue.
hearing yourself is too heavy, you can take out the earplugs. You will only need them at the end.
Yes, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
But as long as you hear me well, I think it's fine for me. So, but just let me know. Let me know if you don't hear me well.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on today, so I'm sorry for that. But let's move on. So,
Yeah. You need to reshare your screen.
oh, sorry. Yes. Okay. Is it visible? Yes. So I will continue. So if you have any problem with the sound, just let me know again. And if it is okay, just also confirm it. So I'll continue a bit, and then you let me know if it's okay. So let's move on to the next slide. So the first thing that we want to talk about is we're going to talk about so how we move our code to and to our user. So the things that we can do and create this flow. So the first thing that I want to talk about is that mainly when we are talking about our end user or our customers, we're talking about several different customers. As a developer, we may have a customer like our company testers. These are our customer or our internal testers, and our product owner may have like another customer, which is maybe external, customer testers. And maybe at the end of the day, we have a production app that we want to just ship it to our end user, right? These are different groups of our end user in a company that we usually work, right? So what we want to do, we want to talk about like how to map these customers or these groups to the different branching flow, let's say. One of the conventions that it's already existed for several years, and maybe you're using that right now, and it perfectly matches even some agile, patterns like Scrum, is Git flow, right? The way that Git flow works, let's quickly just come to the same page. So you're going to usually have two branches, main master branch or main branch. It's norm and GitHub these days. So, and you want to have a develop branch, which usually you branch out to create features from develop and merge back to develop, right? You have two more branches also here. You're going to have release branch and you're going to have hotfix branches. The difference between feature branch and release and hotfix is that when you create a free feature branch, you merge it back to develop. But when you create, and also you create it from develop, but when you create a release branch or hotfix branch, a release branch, you create it from a develop, but you merge it back to both develop and master, as well as hotfix. So for a hotfix branch, you create it from master because something is broken over there and you need to quickly hotfix this. But once you merge a hotfix branch, you also merge it with develop and master branch. So let's have this branching right now. So you have a feature, you have a develop, which is continuously a developer are updating, fixing, adding features and things like that. And then at the end, you create a release branch, which is going to be for testers maybe, and maybe fixing some stuff over there. And at the end, you merge it back to master, right? This is how you want to do, or you use Git flow usually. But then how can we map this flow to our testers? What we want to do actually is that, so in our company, so we have several different groups, right? So we need to think about like how fast we want to ship this product to which user. For instance, our company tester or internal tester, let's say, they want to receive, as soon as we merge with develop, they want to receive the latest update, right? So the continuous integration and CDC, let's say CDCI, it's going to work, and then you ship it to those groups immediately when you merge something to develop, right? You can even go further details, like you can ship one specific feature branch to one specific group, but usually that's not the way that we want to test. Maybe we want to just merge it with develop, and our internal tester want to work with that. Once you create a release branch, it's the branch that is nominated for becoming like a production ready app. So you may want to actually ship it to our testers, external testers, like the testers that are using usually beta. That's so you can ship this branch to your like external testers, some high-level testers, and they can play around. If there's no problem, then you can merge it with master. And once you develop with master, the CDCI is working, and then you deploy to production, right? So this is the way that we can map this branching system with our testers. But why I'm telling you this, if you're thinking about like automated, let's say script or some tools that makes it automatic for us, also, let me show you some code here, is that you will have similar codes here. You say that, okay, if this branch, I want to run this pipeline, or if this is the branch of develop, run this pipeline, and vice versa. But why I'm telling you this, why the branching mapping between the customers and also the pipelines works. The reason is that in iOS and Android, when you want to have a Flutter app, you deploy to both iOS and Android, right? So you have different customers in different places. And Android, Google Play, usually you have 4 tracks or different options, let's say, that you can ship, and you can have dedicated groups to each testers or groups of, let's say, people that want to test your application. So you start from internal, alpha, beta, and production. And once you want, and also in iOS or Google, Apple Store, you usually have test flight, which you ship to different, you test application, and you have App Store, which is your production application. So if we are thinking about those mapping of branching and the customers that we just talked, we can map it in this way. We can say, right, okay, we can create like a pipeline, automated pipeline that start building, and then from this branch, like which we will decide where, what, go to like internal, and then once it's done, you can build again, or maybe you can promote. Depends on what you want to do. For instance, for beta or release branches, when you release to beta, you may not need to even actually create another build. So you can just promote from beta to production, and that's it, done. But you can be more strict and say, no, I need to merge with master and always build master and deploy to production directly, even though it takes time and it doesn't matter. We want to do that. Or maybe you have an environment set up like beta environment and you want to build it again because you want to like apply production environment for production line. And you can do the same thing almost with TestFlight and Apple Store. But there are some limitations here. For instance, in Apple Store or TestFlight, you can create groups and ship different build number to different groups. But you cannot have several lanes like what you have already in Google Play. But still, it's possible to create groups and say, no, this is this version dedicated for this group, and you can just release them to that group, and that group will receive your application to test. But you also have other options. So that's not the only thing you can do. So you have, for instance, Firebase app distribution. The way it works, it's fairly simple. So it's way simpler than setting up these pipelines with Apple and Google. The reason is that you can remove some hassles of deployment and signing and things like that, and simply just deploy to app distribution. And then in app distribution, you can categorize your customers and map those categorized or groups between your branch and those pipelines of deployment. And then once you build, you can simply just ship it to your customer directly, and your customer will receive a notification once you release it to Apple Firebase app distribution. You also have other options if I might make it easier. So you also have Visual Studio App Center. So the way that it works is fairly similar to a Firebase app distribution for distributing, but you have more options here. You can have also build like CD, CI, and things like that. So it's more comprehensive, and I don't think it's free, by the way. But for app distribution, you can get some free tier as well. So, and these are the way that we coming from a code perspective to mapping our branching and go ahead and deploy to our end user with different tools. You can use Google Play, you can go Apple Store, you can go for app distribution or any other tools that you think that you can distribute your application. But why we are talking about these flows, these branching? Because in the next session of this talk, we're going to talk about how automating this stuff. So when we are talking about branching stuff, then okay, once we establish that, we just build and then pipeline pick it up and then ship it out. That's it. So simple, right? Let's go a little bit deeper. Before that, when it comes to DevOps, also we need to make sure the quality of our work, right? So we need to make sure that once we want to actually ship to production, for instance, or to some customers in different branches, we have some rules applied. Like we need to run maybe analyzer, we need to run formatting, or we need to run tests, maybe different tests for different branches. These are the things that you need to figure out and add it to your pipeline of deployment, which you see shortly how you create those pipelines. So it's important that you think about this code quality. For instance, first of all, let me explain that. This is a Dart file right now. You have options in your CLI with Firebase, with Flutter. So you can run Flutter analyze, and it will analyze your application. But the thing is that then if you make this like command working with Dart, like the way that you see right now in the screen, you can also run it locally with some Git hooks, for instance. So the code quality starts from the developer's computer. So you make sure that before you send in your PR, before you commit, you merge, you're running some stuff and make sure that everything is okay. So before even sending your PR or merging something with develop. So that's why, so these writing these scripts or commands working with Dart makes sense. So then you can go ahead and create even pre-hooks, Git hooks with Dart, and then run it, run this Dart file both on your machine from Git or on CDCI. So it's a single source right now. It's just one Dart file which does something. Maybe it's just run analyzer, just one command, but you have everything in one place. Let me show you an example. Here's an example for pre-commit, for instance. What it does is you look at the line 9, it just run your Dart file here. And this is the Dart file that we can actually check it out in the previous slide. So this is it, like simply just run this. But then you have this option here to run this Dart file, and you have the control over your commit, pre-commit or pre-push or whatever hooks that you want to use in a Dart file. And you can use the same thing, same pattern on CDCI as well. And that's very important to have this consistency, to my opinion. So, and that's a way that we go ahead and also do other stuff. So, and for different pipelines, maybe you want to do different things. You want to detect your branch. You want to just say if this branch is production, also run maybe integration tests and things like that, you know? So that can be extended like a lot. So you are not limited to just these 3 commands, for instance. But when we're talking about CDCI, so we talked about branching, moving, and applying all of this. Well, we need to run it somewhere, right? We need to automate it. Let's talk about the way that a developer usually works. Usually what we work is like we're sitting in our computer and we may be branching out some develop branch and starting coding, writing unit tests and sending PRs. And then PRs is going to just picked up by some services and like runs. And if everything is fine, then someone is coming and merging this code with. And again, we run CI and you know all of those checks happen. This is the normal flow usually that we do in our daily work. But why we need to think about even this flow and having CDCI just always running something on somewhere that we make sure that everything is working perfectly? There are several reasons. First of all, and the most important thing is that you want to ensure the quality. You want to make sure that what you're sending or shipping to your customer, it's good enough. And also you want to make sure that when you have these automated pipeline to different user, you don't break anything. So by mistake, so everything is catched and picked up by an automated script and it's running somewhere, which is a very safe environment to run all of this. And at the end of the day, it improves the agility of your work. So once you ship a feature branch, if the most of the companies these days working with agile, methodology, or have some Scrum or some Kanban or something else, and they want to ship as fast as possible and pick up the issues as fast as possible to fix them, right? So, and the way that you run this automation on this service makes it perfect for this agility. So you can ship to your user as fast as possible. But you have several options, like what should I do? Which service should I use? It's not only one service on the internet that you can go. Someone says that this is better than that one, this is better than this one. All right, fair enough. There are several tools and you can use many of them. No problem. But if you want to decide to move from one service to another service for some reason, like if you are using Travis and you're not happy, you want to move to, I don't know, Jenkins again, so then maybe there are some works over there. Also, when you are doing these pipelines running on some CI tools, then you are dedicating somehow your workflow and scripts for that particular, tooling. So isn't it? But and it's probably sometimes hard to even run it on your local machine, and especially for consistency between developers. There are tools, of course, ways to fix them, but not an easy one. But there are some tools out there that you can use, and you can create a consistent workflow or deploying pipeline for everyone, regardless of the system, regardless of the user, and any other things. You can just automate everything with that tools. And one of those great tools is Fastlane. So Fastlane, it's an amazing open source project for mobile development. It does a lot of things and makes your life as Android and iOS developer way easy. So you do a lot of things with Fastlane. You start from building, signing the code, deploying, uploading, commit, changelog, whatever you are thinking about a deployment pipeline, you can do it with Fastlane with ease. One of the good things about Fastlane is that it's written in Ruby. So, which means the language, even if you're not familiar with the language, no problem whatsoever, because Ruby is a very, very, very simple language to learn. And you don't need to learn like too much to write some script in Fastlane. First of all, there are a lot of already pre-built packages and plugins and things like that. You can just use them and call some function and does some magic. And secondly, if you want to do something, Ruby is very, very simple to write code. And the way that you have a Fastlane on your project after you initialize it, so you see a folder structure right like this one. You see a Fastlane folder, you have an app file, you have a fast file, and you have plugin files. These are different things, but the main file here is fast file, where you write all of your script and lanes. Let's say lanes are simple functions, let's say here in this case. So we get to that right now. So in this example, you see that I have one Fastlane per project, but you can merge them also both in one fast file and run it in the root of your application. That's also not a problem. It depends on your development team taste, like if you like it separated or you want to merge it and do some sharing code as well. So in a Fastlane folder, the main file that I explained was fast file. But how does it look? It's a Ruby file, right? So that's a little bit messy here on the screen. But the point here is that you can write simple script here and you can define what you want to do with Ruby language. And that's the reason I have this messy code here, just show you that how easy you can start with. One step further in that, in this file, you need to specify different platforms. You have two platforms for sure. You have Android, and then you can do your lanes. Lanes, like I said, it's just function. We just see one function in the next slide. And then we have iOS. Once you define your lanes, well, when you want to run this, you need to say, hey, Fastlane, please run iOS with some command, and then it will run your lane. For example, if you create like a lane called beta internal release, and it does here in this function, it does three things. It prepares the application with release false, because it's beta, for instance. It's some parameters I define. It set up the changelog afterwards, once the prepare is done. And then it releases to store to some specific tracks. I want to deploy to internal because in the beginning of the slides, I showed you that I defined my lane based on the branch. For instance, this is a development branch, and I want to release it to internal. So, and the prepare function may have several other things to do. It's not only a function that out of the box. Some functions are built in. You can use them. Some of them you need to define and call them yourself. And as an example here is an example for the similar things that I showed you for Android for iOS. Again, I have a prepare function. I set up changelog. I upload to test flight. And at the end of the day, I send in a Slack message, or maybe I want to just maybe also add a tag to my Git. There's also Git actions tag, so you can also do that. So once you, one of the things that is very, very easy to do with Fastlane, and you will not regret to use this tool, is as code signing for iOS. If you have done any iOS and Android development, you know that iOS part, that this code signing, generating certificate, handling that, updating that, sharing between developers, it's not like an easy task to do, and it's very repetitive. You need to do it a couple of times. If it's outdated, go ahead, do it, update it, download it, blah blah blah. It's a bit of work. But then with Fastlane, it comes with the tools called Match and together with PEM. So you can create certificates and profiles and store them somewhere secure and even share them across the team. What does that mean? That means that when you have these lanes ready and these certificates ready, me as a developer or someone else as a developer on their machine, doesn't matter. Even on CDCR, doesn't matter. You can just run this lane command, and it will does everything for you. It will just fetch the certificates, apply it, install it, and sign it, and then build it. This is an amazing things that can happen once you set it up. And for the setup, the part of setup is fairly also easy. It's not very visible in the gift animation, but you just run 2 commands, and then all the setup for different environment will be ready, like development or maybe production or App Store or something you want. You can just run a command and it will create everything. And it will store everything to some secure places. Like I said, maybe you can encrypt them and push it to GitHub private repo, for instance, or store it in Google or AWS somewhere. Then it will be shared between your team. So a lot of things, like I said, like from certificate, provisioning, profile, and all of those things will happen with Fastlane and with these tools as easy as calling one function. So there are different tools also to store this profile provisioning and certificates. And you can, one of the option is maybe Google Cloud and or maybe GitHub or AWS, or if you're using Azure on your, there are plugins that you can have those storage for storing those certificates and sharing between teams, team members and other teams as well. So, and the code signing part, the interesting part is line 10 in this slide. You call sync code signing, or match is an alias. So you call match function, and boom, it will just go ahead and download everything, install it, apply it, and add all the certificates thingy to your iOS build. And that's only one function you do, and nothing else. And that's an interesting part of this code signing for Fastlane. So another thing that is probably a little bit maybe challenging when it comes to, especially to iOS, it's to just having this automated numbering, versioning, and things like that. So you need to update a couple of stuff, different places to get it to work. And what you can do with Fastlane, you can just simply don't care about it and just run a few commands to always check what is the latest build number on maybe, for instance, test flight, and get that and maybe bump it by 1. Here is one example here that I'm just writing for you. Or you can check it maybe on Google Play and see like what is the latest build number on any of these tracks, and then I can bump it by 1 and then upload a new version. So simple. So I don't need to care about what was the build number right now or some script to just do that. So Fastlane, you just always check the latest version and bump it with some numbers. You can do the same thing with version number as well. So you can run tests and you can run external commands as well. So you can also run here Dart code, for instance. You can just say, hey, for instance, for this pipeline, because it's for internal, just run this Dart code that is for probably development branch. something like that. And then you can run it here to make sure that these lanes, which are just working step by step, are working perfectly. So, and if something is broken, it just breaks in the middle of the lanes, and the deployment stops for that reason. So writing changelog metadata to the Apple Store and Google Play. Maybe for metadata, you do it once and maybe it doesn't make sense. Well, still it makes sense to keep it as a code and update it. You don't need to go to Apple Store or Google Play to update it. But some companies just maybe one person does that once and never do it again. But for changelog, whenever you publish, you want to have a changelog. You want to just send something to your customers, say something is happening. You can automate that. You can even have a multilingual way of doing that with Fastlane. Here is an example here again. Once you get time and the slides, you just go ahead and check it out. So simply create your changelog, send it to your user, or writing to your repository. Some changelog is already happening over there. So that's not it. There's a lot of other functions in Fastlane. So you can do Git actions, you can clear your branch, you can uh, send some tags to your, like when you get your latest build and latest, let's say, version, you can also maybe want to tag it to your branch. It's fine. All of these things can be happening by Fastlane's different functions. It's not only simple one things that you can do. There are lots of other plugins in the ecosystem. It's quite strong. You can find a lot of plugins that you can just do whatever you want. And at the end of the day, once your deployment are ready by matching your lanes, like when you say my lane is internal, do this, or if it's prod, do this, or if it's beta, do this. But how do you define those lanes? Of course, you define it in a way that you say, hey, Fastlane, run your command, bundle exec Fastlane, some command like iOS, Android, one of them, and then the deployment lane. So the deployment lane is it's uh, set up by your branch name. So the way that we talked about in the beginning of the slides. And at the end of the day, just relax until it's done. So it will just upload and does everything, send a message to everyone that you probably configured, and you don't need to do anything, just simple, sit and relax. And you may need to see, you can also see these pipelines running on different systems as well. So you can maybe visualize them as well. There are tools also to visualize them. So, but that's not the point. The point is that when you write the Fastlane file, you can run it on any CDCI system. You can run it on any machine without any hassle. So you just need to run some command and boom. So everyone can publish. Well, of course, you need to add some security things to like decrypting certificate and things like that. Not everyone should have the passwords or things like that. But then, of course, I mean, once you have those securities set up, then you have a very easy way to deploy your branches to the different customers. So what we have learned. So we just talked about the Git flow pattern and see how it can help to kind of match our different customer and groups in the company to the different branches and have a meaningful deployment from these branches to different pipelines. And at the end of the day, with Fastlane, we could automate all the boring tasks and repetitive tasks and run it on any different CDCI. So regardless of what you are going to use, it doesn't matter. With that said, thank you very much for listening to me. I'm happy to answer some questions if there are. So let me see some question. Is Firebase work as a backend for Flutter? Firebase could work as a backend for Flutter for sure. Should I? Yes, it could work. There are several different options there, so you can have it there, and you can also run it as a backend. Yes, Firebase it has a lot of things, especially for mobile development. It's an amazing tools. That's Really nice. And now, can I use PHP MySQL as a backend for? Well, when you say backend, I'm not really sure what you exactly mean for Flutter. But if you are talking about like serving some APIs, you can use anything. So it doesn't matter. I'm not really sure when you say backend what you exactly mean backend. So there are lots of things that we can consider as a backend. So, but then yes, of course, you can do PHP as a backend, so no problem. So Flutter is just a UI toolkit, so it just consume what you provided to it, for sure. So Fastlane is making my development agnostic to my exactly. So Fastlane makes it agnostic. And that's an amazing thing. So you are not dependent on anything. You just run everything on your machine, on your CDCI, on any different machine. Maybe you run it on some, I don't know, so then Azure server, Visual server, or you run it somewhere else. It really doesn't matter. You can have your own CDCI like system. And that's the way that I really like to work with Fastlane. Any other question?
I have one question which is not written down, and it's somehow the agnostic question is a little bit my question.
Yes.
Um, so actually, what you described is like tools who help us to get a little bit more independent of endpoints we might have, or because Flutter is distributing to everywhere with just one single source, and Fastlane is helping to manage all that stuff.
Yes.
Do you think this is a kind of a trend, or do these tools work so good together because they are similar?
Yeah. I can explain. That's a maybe a good question. Let me tell you that the Fastlane is not built for Flutter. So initially it was built for mobile, iOS and Android developments. Some developers at some point decided like to remove some headache of deployment and doing some like automating some boring and repetitive tasks. Like for instance, certificates and provisioning is one of those like headaches usually. So if you
Yeah.
want to build an iOS app, or coming to versioning is also maybe a headache. So they just thought that, okay, we can automate this and stuff, then we can write in a tool that everyone can use it. Why not? And at some point the author was kind of supported by Google, and Google right now actually is supporting Fastlane. So now Fastlane is a very big tool. It's an independent script that just makes your development, a deployment or development, let's say, with any other framework. You can use it with, let's say, I don't know, Cordova. You can use it with any like cross-platform or mobile platform application. It really doesn't matter what you want to use with. But now in this talk, I just pointed out like how you can kind of integrate it with Flutter and run some of those things that Flutter also needs with Fastlane. For instance, just running those Dart files to make sure for quality, or uh, like making sure that so for instance, versioning in Flutter is a bit different, so we can handle it with Fastlane like easier, for instance. So
Mhm.
these type of things for that I mentioned.
There are another question came in, and it says, can Flutter make system apps, meaning that apps that have to deal with phone architecture, like a video editing app?
Um, to be honest, I have not done that, but I don't see any reason that it cannot do that. So as I can say yes, very strong, even though I haven't done that. Um, and actually, I see a familiar name right now in the audiences, JP. He is a good friend of mine, and he has a lot of experience with these type of things in Flutter. Maybe he can write in chat if he knows exactly. But what I can say based on my experience is that Flutter can do anything. It's better to do something with that, not for instance, it may not be good for building games, although people have written even games with Flutter. Or there are also some Unity like
Yeah.
plugins and things like that. So you can definitely do that. But for this question particularly, I can say, yeah, definitely Flutter can do that. So if you check out a system, Flutter Web, for instance, it's one of my favorite. Yeah, see, look at JP is answering right now. You can read maybe you can cast it to the screen and everyone can read that.
Yeah.
So Flutter, in short, can do anything. Even on web, some people say that it's not strong, but there are good examples right now that have been built by Flutter Web. And one of them is Rive application, which you can create 2D animation. You can run it also on web and Flutter. So I can write it down here. The version Rive 2, version 2 of Rive 2, web version of Rive 2 application was written in pure Flutter. And that's a huge success. So I bet that they want to also do it some desktop and mobile application at some point for sure. That's the reason they used it. They used Flutter.
Okay. And do you know how used Flutter is? I think Flutter is now around for 1 or 2 years, or like in the wild.
Yes, it was released almost 3 years ago, let's say, the stable version, I mean.
Yeah.
And so since now, it has quite a lot of milestones and a lot of good things happen to Flutter. So it's quite stable right now for developing mobile application in any kind. And
Yeah.
as JP right now mentioned, maybe it doesn't have itself, like this is a UI framework for sure, but it has a very nice integration with native code. So you can do whatever with native code and just have a bridge between your code native and Flutter, like an interface. There are interfaces already, plugins that you can use them.
Okay. Good. Perfect.
Very good.
And what do you work at the moment on with Flutter?
Yeah, we are developing in our company. We are developing a smart home solution, and we use Flutter to. We have several applications, by the way. One of them is for end users. One of them is for admins. One of them is for our internal customers. So we deploy that to different like groups of people in our company and also external people. So we have this application is quite big, by the way. I think we have over 600 screens, and that's quite a lot of screens for a mobile application. And it's a real-time application, by the way. So it updates everything in real time, and we did quite a lot of stuff in this
Yeah.
application. So I'm proud of that.
Yeah. Yeah, you can be. So this also proves that Flutter is like production ready, and
Oh, absolutely.
there is no reason why it's inferior to put it in native code.
Yeah. That is,
And
well, you may find this like maybe there are some very edge cases that well you really will have to write native iOS and Android, but like generally I don't think of any, like generally you can write anything in Flutter. I don't think any reason like not to do it. So it's easy, native code performance if like fast. So animations are running in 60 FPS. Everything is cool. So why not using that? Just go ahead and do that.
yeah, perfect. So thank you, Majid. It
You're welcome.
was a very nice talk, very interesting. There would be one last question. Why does
Yeah.
Flutter apps get so big?
Well, that's a thing that we need to discuss because depends on what you are doing. Because our application with 600 pages and a lot of static like assets, it's not over 10 megabytes. I'm not sure when you say big, what you exactly mean, but there are some solutions to shrinking down to optimize code. But at the end of the day, like, so you have probably some extra overhead anyways. It's a cross-platform engine,
Yeah.
right? So maybe it added some overhead, but it's not so much. It's not that something you say that, oh, that's very annoying. Like, of if I do it in native, it's 1 MB, but if I do it with Flutter, it's 30 megabytes. The
Yeah.
difference is not that much. You can definitely run some optimization and get a better size for sure.
Yeah. Most of the overhead is media data anyhow. So
Absolutely.
yeah, 16K video files.
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
So thank you for your talk again. And yeah, what's coming
Thank
up
you very
next?
much.
The end comes up next. But before you leave,
Sure.
um, there is a mobile, we have our mobile days in November, which focus on software development and um, mobility. And this could be also very nice and interesting for you. And there will be another live week at the beginning of December. So this will be also one possibility for you to see what's out there, what is going on in the realm of NoSQL, what's going on in the realm of quality. Today, we also touched the topic of quality a little bit. So if you're curious, wearedevelopers.com is the website you want to go to. And that being said, I would say this is the end. Have a nice evening. Stay safe. If you're one in those areas, not in the woods, but yeah, in the city, always wear a mask. And see you next time. Bye.